I'm going to start this farewell session. I have muted everybody, but you will be able to unmute yourselves when you want to speak. 2 days ago, I welcomed everybody, and now it's time to say goodbye. And we have a few things that we need to do in the process of saying goodbye. I think that we want to express a lot of gratitude. I want to express a lot of gratitude on behalf of everybody to all the people who have been involved in bringing us to this symposium. And in order to do that, I have to remember a lot of people, and I confess that I'm a little afraid of forgetting. I was thinking about my father, who before he died forgot who I was and eventually forgot who he was. And it's something that I always fear. So fortunately, I'm going to be helped today by Peter, Luis, and Lindy, and I hope by some of you before we finish. The first thing that we need to do, or that we want to do, is to give Jose Miguel Suña an honorary membership to GASi. And this is because of the special role that he is playing and has played in the development of group analysis in Spain. And Peter and Joanne Cole are going to say a little bit about why we want to do this. Peter? Or Joanne, perhaps?
I'm going to start. I first met Jose Miguel 21 years ago, 2 months after I moved to Spain, at the APAG conference in Sitges on a very beautiful November weekend. And he was the president of APAG at the time and an extraordinarily generous host. And I remember that very strongly, and it was the beginning of my long journey into Spain, and he was part of that beginning, and I value that first encounter with him very strongly. And ever since that first encounter with Jose Miguel, although we haven't got to know each other very much over that time, I have been very aware all along of the very significant role that he has played in Spanish group analysis, Spanish group psychotherapy. He has played I think a central linking role in bringing group analysis, linking group analysis from the rest of the world to Spain. He's through his translation work, his website, and the books that he's written. I was very aware of that, and I was also very aware that he was kind of like an unknown, acknowledged figure within the world of group analysis. Much less well known than Joan Campos, actually, who's the figure within group analysis in Spain that's better known. And I often wondered why Jose Miguel wasn't well known, because I know that he's worked incredibly hard. And I get the impression that it's frustrated him enormously at times, this huge task of bringing group analysis into Spain. So that's why I very genuinely and sincerely think we're doing the right thing in offering him honorary membership, because I think he strongly deserves it. And I remember I first invited him to join in the local organizing committee of the Barcelona Symposium, but he said no, because I'm exhausted. But he gave up eventually and joined in, and as you can see, he's been very much a part of us. So thank you, Jose Miguel.
Gracias, Peter. Y poco más voy a añadir. Estoy como miembro raso de GASi, estoy muy emocionado de que te den este reconocimiento merecido, merecidísimo, no solo a nivel personal por lo que representas, lo que has hecho y lo que sigues haciendo y escribiendo y trabajando a favor del grupo análisis aquí, no solo de traer, como decía Peter, el grupo análisis aquí, sino de darlo a conocer un poco fuera y de ayudar a romper esta barrera que no sé si es idiomática, si es cultural, si es física, si son los putos Pirineos que todavía nos separan tanto del resto de Europa, pero que uno de los motivos de hacer este increíble montaje que hemos hecho ha sido intentar romper estas barreras. Y en parte todo esto se debe a ti. Como antiguo alumno tuyo, lo único que te puedo decir es que creo que eres de estas figuras paternas y de autoridad que con la perspectiva del tiempo, con el paso del tiempo, ganan estatura. A diferencia de otras que se hacen pequeñas, la tuya sigue creciendo. I finalment, com a company teu d'organització d'aquest congrés, ha estat una experiència molt maca poder-me sentir més proper a tu i més col·lega teu. Gràcies per tot, mestre, i enhorabona, ho tens molt merescut.
No puc dir massa coses perquè només haig de dir gràcies, perquè no tinc altra... No? Moltes gràcies. Merci bien. Merci bien, and thank you for that.
Could you say it again, Joan, in English? Because there's no translation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course.
Yes.
I wasn't sure about that. My pleasure.
Waiting for you.
I'm thrilled as a member of GASi to have Mikel have this honorary recognition. I think he deserves it personally for all the work he has done and what he represents. He has brought group analysis into Spain, and he's been an ambassador of group analysis outside of Spain. And one of the reasons of doing this conference in Barcelona in Spain was to be able to cross the barrier of the Pyrenees, the language barrier or the cultural barrier or whatever. We were not sure of what it is because there's so much great group analytic work being done here that is not known outside. So maybe with this conference and with this recognition, something will start to change. I was a student of his, and I was telling him that unlike other people, with the passage of time, his figure gains in stature and in recognition for all of us. And as a colleague in the organization of this conference, it's been very tough. There's been a lot of losses involved, but it's been great to be able to work with him as a colleague and made me feel closer to him. So that was basically it. I'm very proud to be his colleague now.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. I'm not sure why we lost the English translation, but it gives us...
The host has stopped the interpretation.
I understand that, but I don't know why that's happened.
But it's back now. It's back now.
Okay. It just for a moment gave us a sense of the value of the interpretation that we've had. And for a moment we had to deal with really not understanding something that we might have expected to understand. So thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
I just want to acknowledge a few of the contributions that we've benefited from. The first person I want to mention is Robbie Friedman, my predecessor, and the role that he played in the conception of a trilingual symposium, offering us the opportunity to begin to think about language, the influence it has on our groups, on our work, on our relations with one another. And Robbie has continued to contribute to our work through convening the language advisory group, which has wrestled with issues of the technical process whereby we might have a bit more ability to understand one another. So thank you, Robbie. I want to really express appreciation of the support that we've had from GASi throughout the process, the technical support, the support from the translators. Raquel told me that altogether there are 24 people in the background who've been involved during the symposium in giving us help and support. But I want to particularly mention Frank, Adila, and Paula, and Andrea, who have been involved with the sessions themselves and helping us to iron out difficulties when they've arisen. And I really, really want to mention Raquel Fornes-Gil and Marta Gouache. Raquel has been with us, it seems like, from the beginning, and throughout she's been so conscientious, so constantly available to us, so ready to think about the special problems that we were presenting her with. And it's been a real pleasure to work with her. And Marta joined her more recently and also has been fantastically helpful to us and responsive. And I'm sure many of you have had exchanges with one or both of them, and you've realized just how helpful they are. I want to thank the contributors of the videos, which we made into the video, which you can still see on the GASi website. And if you haven't seen it, I think you should watch it because it's delightful. And it began to create a sense of the movement to the symposium, that something was developing and building. I want to thank the poster contributors who have, whose work is going to be available on the platform for a month. The platform will be open to you all for the next month, and the recordings of sessions will also be there. So I invite you to revisit the platform, look at the posters, respond to them, and look at the sessions that have been recorded. I want to mention the chairs of the committees, Lindy Watton and Jose Miguel Sunya, who were co-chairs of the Scientific Program Committee, Peter Zeleskovsky and Luis Palacios, who were co-chairs, no, that's wrong. Yes, Peter and Luis Palacios, who were co-chairs of the Local Organizing Committee, Joanne Cole, who was co-chair with myself of the Management Committee, Angelica Goltz with her team, Joan Fogel, Sally Scaife and Luis, who did a very wonderful job with the Bursary Committee. And I want to mention Marit and Maite, who did a fantastic job as our co-treasurers, keeping their eye on the money at all times.
Hon är sekreterare på IAGP, Maite.
Now I'm going to ask Peter and Linda to speak about their committees.
David, you're forgetting Aurea.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm not forgetting Aurea. Peter's going to tell us about Aurea.
Oh, right.
Actually,
I'm sorry.
I'll just correct what you said. I'll just correct what you said, David. That Luis Palacios and myself, we were co-chairs of the Barcelona Symposium.
I'm sorry, Peter.
And Aurea Moreno and myself, co-chairs of the Local Organizing Committee. I'm going to talk about the Local Organizing Committee in a minute, but I just want to say a few things first about my own sort of experience. In Spain, on the side of most of the minor roads in Spain, there are drainage ditches, as in most places, not all places, and they're called cunetas. It's a very well-known phenomenon in Spain, and in these cunetas and in other places too, but largely in these drainage ditches, there are, it's thought something like 120,000 bodies from the Spanish Civil War. Wow. And I just wanted to mention that because I'm going to tell you about an experience I had on the 8th of August this year, about less than a month ago, in fact. I was cycling I was in Leon on holiday, and I was cycling. I was on a cycle ride, and I wasn't wearing a face mask, which felt tremendously liberating. And I was just arriving home on my cycle road when I decided to look behind me to see if a car was coming. But I looked in the wrong direction. I looked around over my right shoulder, but I should have looked around over my left shoulder. And my bike wobbled, and I crashed into a drainage ditch, into a cuneta. And I was lying there in a tangled mess in the drainage ditch, and I kind of had a sense that I'd done something to my body. I stood up in the ditch and there was a driver who'd stopped and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." But I knew I wasn't. I knew something was wrong. And I discovered later on in the day that I'd broken my collarbone. And I've been carrying it around for the past month. And this reminded, since this happened, this incident on the road reminded me of what's been going on for me in the last 3.5 years. Quite often when I meet friends and colleagues, they've looked at me and said, "Peter, are you all right?" Because they know they're well aware about what I've been experiencing with the Barcelona Symposium. And I usually answered, "Yeah, I'm all right," but knowing that something wasn't quite right. I think that this is a good metaphor for me of what my experience of the symposium. And this symposium we placed language at its heart, and it had to be this way, I think, being in Barcelona, in Catalonia. But actually, from the start of this online symposium, I felt that mourning and conflict and locating ourselves in the global conflicts and identifying them as ours has been the core concern, as it always is and always should be, I think, with the GASi Symposium. The local organizing committee started its work 3.5 years ago, and the first email was one from myself to Joan in November 2016. Are you interested in joining in with this project? And he said, "Maybe. Okay, I'll think about it. I'm very busy." But he said yes, to my delight, and that's how it started, and we got ourselves moving. And so I really want to thank Joan for being so present throughout all of this and being such a wonderful kind of colleague and friend. He's an incredibly thoughtful man. I want to thank the members of the committee, above all, Aurea Moreno, for being such a present person. She's been very present and active, quietly active in so much of what we've done. And also for co-organizing and chairing this social program that we put on. It's a very small version of the social program we had in mind. We had all sorts of other things in mind. We managed to put something on, and I'm really grateful to Aurea for being part of organizing that. And as David mentioned, Maite P. for her extraordinary diligence in all of this process. I think Maite has been so important a part of our group. And I want to thank Lewis for his incredible kind of solid support and sensitivity. And I want to mention another organization called the Barcelona Espai de Supervision, made up of Javier Jimeno, Arnau Carreta, and Sylvia Blanche, who have hosted many of our face-to-face meetings and were collaborating with us throughout the Barcelona process. I also want to thank Gloria Mateo, who has been an incredibly strong and important part of keeping us going, I think. Ernesto Gonzalez, who's the current president of APAG, who's not with us today. And I also want to, like David, thank Robbie Friedman for his extraordinary political capacities in negotiating in conflicts, something which I lack significantly. So thank you to all of those friends and colleagues and I feel that we've arrived at a good experience, and I'm glad that we've managed to achieve this. So thank you.
Well,
one final thing. As the editor of Contexts, Group Analytic Contexts, I want you to write to me with your experiences of the symposium. Over the next month or 2 months, please write to me with your thoughts, reflections, both personal and theoretical. I want to have an issue of Context dedicated to the symposium and what we've been doing this weekend. So please write to my email address. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Peter. I knew I could rely on you to hold on to yourself better than I, and that's very helpful. Thanks so much. Lindy, Or,
Thank you, David.
go ahead.
Okay. It's inevitable in a symposium of this kind, whether online or in person, that there'll be an element of disappointment. It won't have been possible to explore each person's particular preoccupation with the power of language to include or exclude as fully as they would have wished, nor to have connected with as many people from different backgrounds as we had hoped. And at the same time, there's this sense of loss now at what we've managed to co-create, that it has to come to an end. But think what an extraordinary achievement this has been, and the huge efforts that have gone into it. Luis already referred at the opening to the commitment of the various committees and their members in preparing for the symposium. But what struck me over the last few days is the commitment of participants, some of whom have stayed up all night in order to attend, and others who found ways to stay with us despite irregular electricity supplies and poor broadband connections. All of us have had to tolerate technical hitches in the keynote sessions to do with sharing PowerPoint presentations and with sound levels in the simultaneous translation, and struggle together to make sense of the pain, tension and frustration in the large group, with which we are perhaps more familiar. Nonetheless, from my own experience and from what I hear from others, enormous connections have been made with others across the barriers of language, and understanding has been developed and elaborated theoretically and experientially. So, I'd like to thank everyone for their generous contributions to this process. Así que es un gran placer para mí agradecer a los colegas con los que he trabajado más estrechamente durante los últimos 2 o 3 años. Mi correspondiente del Comité de Programa Científico, José Miguel Suñer, quien también intervino como orador principal en el último minuto, y los miembros del comité. Christian Walbach from Denmark, Gloria Mateo Vives and Arnau Carreta from Spain, Tia Despotovic from Serbia, Kirsti Solberg Lingstad from Norway, and Athena Marudu Chatoulis from Greece, as well as Yael Doron, can't talk anymore, Yael Doron, Javier Gutierrez Igarza, and Manuel Mateos, who were with us in the early days. My special thanks go to Tia for taking on the enormous task of organizing the experiential groups. I'd also like to thank the conductors of those experiential groups, Joseph Acosta, Rachel Chernovsky, Mary Spreng-Courtney, Anka Detroy, Maite P., Helga Felsberger, Teresa von Sommaruga-Howard, Luis Palacios, Cherry Potter, Paul Benair, Joanna Skravonska, Maria Antoinetta Peso, Yafi Schrepa, Yafi Spira, Stefan Adler, and Sally Mitchison, and the Social Dreaming hosts, Robert Orlich, Markus Schripke, Anna Maritz, Alice Mulasso, Marit Joffe Milstein, Gila Offer, and Athena Maruda Chatjulis. And of course, our team of 3 large group conductors, Elizabeth Rohr, Sue Einhorn, and Jose Miguel, and their supervisor, Maurice Nitzen. It was no easy task. None of our efforts would have come to fruition, however, without the enormous efforts of the Crawley staff, especially Raquel and Marta, who were extremely responsive, patient, friendly, and professional, and who worked extraordinarily long hours. This has not been a typical conference for them. I'd also like to thank the interpreters who, apart from the amazing feat of listening and at the same time speaking in another language, also managed somehow to convey the character of the communication that they were translating. Gracias a todos.
Thank you, Lindy. Luis, would you like to say something?
Yeah, and I have a doubt. Did we mention Kurt?
Kurt.
I can do it if you want.
Why don't you mention Kurt, who's so important?
Okay, yes, I want to do it because I think he was very important. He brings to us the Berlin experience, and he brings to us his support as person, as professional. Now, in Spanish. Yo he aprendido, y creo que todos hemos aprendido muchas cosas en este congreso. Muchas de ellas me han gustado, otras me he adaptado a ellas. Pero finalmente creo que el resultado es satisfactorio y yo me voy de este simposio con muchos buenos recuerdos y un buen sabor de boca. In my own name and in the name of Spanish Society of Psychotherapy Group Techniques, I want to say I have been very happy to be part of this symposium organization. I think we all are here, we participated in a very special process. Thanks again to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Luis. I'm sure we have forgotten some people, and I'm sorry about that. But I'm glad we've been able to mention some of the people who have been very important in bringing us here. We're going to close in a moment, and I don't think that we have time to hear from any of the participants, and I'm sorry about that as well. Normally, this is the moment when we would be announcing the venue of the next symposium. We have chosen the venue, but because the whole process of negotiation has been slowed down by the circumstances that we found ourselves in, we are not yet able to make an announcement. So I'm very sorry about that. But we will be having a symposium in the summer of 2023, and we very much hope that you will be able to come and join us. Of course, we don't really know the circumstances that we'll be facing then, but whatever happens, we will have a symposium in 23.
David, I'm sorry, David, I think you forget one person that I think had made a lot of contribution, our flamenco teacher. I think that you need to mention that. I know it is your daughter, but I mean, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I learned a lot. I was very passionate, and I haven't said any word in this large group, but I couldn't not to say that because she was in my mind throughout.
Thank you, Faraday. She's always in my mind. One person who I never forget.
Thank you about
on behalf of students from Rwanda and South Africa, because I think with the support you have given, they were able to attend, and although they didn't have much space to speak, the little bit they spoke, you could see that there's a lot of quality. They bring in quite a lot, and I really would like to thank everyone for supporting them, and also to say to them, I'm really very proud of you, so proud of you.
Thank you, MJ.
It should be.
Well, sadly, this is where we are going to close. I know that many of us have got an experiential group still to come, but that apart from those groups, that's the end of our symposium this year. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
And normally we would be able to hug everybody, but we can't this time. I just felt I needed to say that.
Perhaps so. Oh, never too.
But thank you, David.
We can, Teresa. We can.
Thank
We
you.
can do
Thank
this.
you. Like this.
Thank you.
Myself.
Thank you very
That's not the same.
It's a symbol. It's a sign.
Yeah.
Rather.
Like
It's an
this.
international sign. But you're right. It's not the same.
No, no.
But we can clap. We can clap, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, we can clap.
Yes.
Ourselves.
And mute.
Like we learned in the Spanish.
Ah, el flamenco.
We have to admit that we enjoyed also a part of the knowledge that we got. We enjoyed the open mic very much.
Oh, yes.
It was great.
Beautiful.
It was great.
It was great.
Thank you for everybody.
Yes.
Able to dance.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you very much.
Bye.